It was one winter where Charlie and a couple of us, Jake and Tom, decided to crash over at Charlie's. Being rather daring teens back in the day, we decided to try out things many wouldn't dare to even consider. So, one Friday afternoon, just after me and the boys were rather excitedly looking forward to one of our usual Friday sleepovers, today we were expected at Charlie's since we always ensured each took turns when it came to sleepovers. So, we all arrived at Charlie's around 8. Of course, the first thing we did was to order a pizza and binge over our favorite TV shows. Just to make things more exciting, Jake claimed we should do something daring. Charlie suggested 2 stories about the so-called Slender Man, but Jake went even further by claiming that we should play Ouija board, and indeed he went out of all the trouble to purchase one beforehand. We all looked at each other for a split second, and we ended up agreeing. Well, I agreed due to the peer pressure, but I didn't really want to. I knew it wasn't right, especially given the history surrounding the game. But for everyone else, it was simply a stupid game kids used to scare each other. We then searched the internet for information and tips on how to play the game. We all followed the usual routine where all of us would sit in a circle and take part in the game. So we all put our hands on the board, and Jake unsurprisingly claimed we shouldn't break the circle without saying goodbye. Yeah, we got it. We don't want to unleash something evil. I mean, I thought this was a stupid idea in the first place. At first it didn't work, but the boys, mainly Jake, suggested we keep on trying. And after about 5 tries, something out of the ordinary happened. The board responded to the question. Jake shouted out, "Is anybody with us?" I started to panic a bit and wished to break out from the circle, but Jake was rather forceful and claimed that we should keep on playing. Well, Jake and the others found it rather amusing and asked some historical questions about our town, and what really spooked me was that he claimed that there were 4 of us here. But something more terrifying happened that night, which seems rather shocking, something you'd only expect in a cliched horror flick. The board claimed to know the name of our high school. This is when all the boys simply looked around each other with a sense of shock, but there were suspicions that one of us was playing tricks. Charlie shouted out that it wasn't him, and we all followed by claiming it wasn't us. Finally, Jake seemed to get bored, and we eventually decided to say goodbye and pack it up. However, this wasn't the end, as after 3 hours late into the night while we were asleep, I had heard a rather screaming sound, which sounded like a girl screaming. We all heard it and sat in complete shock and silence, and immediately you could sense fear in each of us simply from our expressions. I suggested that it was a mistake to play this game. Charlie and Paul agreed, but Jake simply didn't, as he said it was simply a children's board game which you can even buy from a conventional store. Me and the guys barely got any sleep that night. I mean, who could? We all discussed that night, and we were still skeptical and assuming one of us was trying to play tricks on us. But one thing for sure, this is a night I can never forget, a night barely any of us seem to talk about. I guess we are all probably traumatized on what happened that night. It definitely was the scariest night of my life.